Good evening and welcome to the Take Shape for Life Habits of Health support call. I'm Shirley Mast. I'm a certified health coach with Take Shape for Life, and it is my pleasure to host the call for you this evening. Now, if this is your first time joining the Habits of Health call, a special welcome to you. This call is for all Take Shape for Life clients and coaches and health professionals. So you might hear questions or comments from people in all of those categories. And if you don't fit in one of those categories and you're simply interested in learning more about our program and how to create better health, you are warmly welcome to. We're really glad you're here. You're going to hear content tonight that's geared towards those who are in various stages of their health journey. Some will be in the weight loss phase, some will be in transition, some will be in the optimization phase, beyond weight loss, moving towards a lifetime of optimal health. Take Shape for Life offers excellent tools and support for weight loss, but we also have a lot to offer for anyone who's looking for better health in any area of life. So if you're in the weight loss phase, perhaps you're on our 5-in-1 structured meal plan, be sure to follow the guidelines that have been set up for you as guided by your free health coach. Now, for those of you that are listening to the recording later, maybe you're watching the video playback or you're listening to the podcast, we are so glad you've taken the time, but we'd invite you to join us live the next time to be part of the discussion. These Habits of Health support calls are held every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can join the live video conference at Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern at zoom.us/my/TSFL Habits of Health. It's that easy. So we'll see how this evening goes. Depends on how long-winded I am. We might have some time for a little bit of sharing at the end. But I think what we're going to do is go ahead and dive right into our topic this evening. I've heard from quite a few of you that you're really looking forward to this one. And this is a topic that is, it's one that a lot of people really resonate with. Actually, I guess I should back this up and mind my manners and at least introduce myself a little bit more. A lot of you I've already met, and it's a pleasure to have you here this evening. But yes, my name is Shirley Mast. You can see on the picture here, if you're watching on Zoom, a photo of my husband and I. I was introduced to Take Shape for Life back in August of 2010, and at that point I weighed close to 400 pounds. My physician introduced the program to me, and he said, you need to take a look at this. He said, I think this will help you. I definitely didn't expect it to work, and I don't think he expected it to work as well as it did. It was one of his earliest introductions to the program as well. But because of Take Shape for Life, I've lost 215 pounds. Because I've done it with the support of a free health coach, because I've learned the habits of health for long-term lifestyle change, I don't have to be afraid that weight is ever coming back. And so I have become pretty passionate about sharing with other people what I've learned. I've been so delighted that the company has given me this opportunity to occasionally host the Habits of Health call, because I know from living it how important it is to apply these habits of health. And so I'm hoping that what I'll be sharing with you this evening will be helpful to you and will help you move forward on your health journey as well. Now, diving right into our topic this evening, we're going to be talking a little bit about emotional eating. Now, I got to tell you, I have a little experience with that myself. I am a former emotional eater. And yes, I did say a former emotional eater. Okay? I used to eat emotionally all the time. And what I'm here to tell you is that it's possible to create the long-term healthy habits so that you don't have to be concerned about that being a problem for you again. So let's start off first, though, talk a little bit about what is emotional eating in the first place. It's a pretty common problem. People will talk about it being either emotional eating or stress eating, same thing. And before we go into this a little bit further, I'm guessing that all of you have had some experience with emotional eating. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. I think if you walk this planet, there's probably been some times you've had some emotional eating episodes. And so what I'd like you to do is to take a moment and think of the last time that you were emotionally eating. Okay, meaning a time when you ate when you really weren't physically hungry. Okay, I'll give you a minute to think about that. Maybe some of you only have to think back an hour or two. But I'd like you to think about the last time you did that and what the circumstances were that were leading up to that. Okay, because it will help you as you go forward as we think about this. And emotional eating can happen for any of a number of reasons, okay? It could be the boss yells at you and, you know, you're feeling really inadequate and your coworker's has a little container of candy on the desk, and as you walk by, you swipe a little candy off the desk because you think that it's going to make you feel better for a moment. It could be the kids are fussing and yelling in the other room. And, you know, I mean, it's never happened to me, of course, but I've heard of other people whose kids misbehave. No, I'm kidding you. My kids used to do it all the time. And I'd get frustrated and think, oh my gracious, does this mean I'm not a good mother? And I think, well, maybe I should go have a bag of chips. Maybe that'll make me feel better. Okay. Or maybe you and your spouse have had a little bit of a disagreement and, you know, he brought you flowers, but it really didn't fix it. And you thought, you know, maybe I'll have some food. Maybe the food will make me feel better because I'm feeling a little angry, a little frustrated, a little rejected. It could be maybe not a feeling that's quite that difficult. It might be that it's just like a Saturday night, you're lonely, you're sitting at home, you're a little bored, you're watching television, and the next thing you know, the bag of chips is gone. Or it could be maybe you're feeling frustrated, you know, and you think, well, a little bit of food will help with that, right? Now, it's not always a negative emotion that will elicit this, okay? Sometimes it's a positive emotion. Maybe you just finished a really big project at work and you want to celebrate. Well, what better way to do that than with something really rich and high in carbs, right? Or so we think. And because you think, well, that will make this wonderful emotion even better. Or maybe you're celebrating some other occasion. I know for me as a child, we used to, whenever I was involved in a lot of music groups, and whenever we had school concerts, after the concert, it was the family routine that we would go out afterwards for ice cream because, of course, we were celebrating because it had been a great concert and it was a great achievement on my part, or maybe not, some days it wasn't. But anyway, but we would celebrate with more food, okay? And I'm not faulting my parents for this. There is a time for celebrations. But when your eating is always based around emotions, you end up not being able to reach your health goals very well. And I used to feed every emotion. I used to feed angry and happy and lonely and sad and bored and all of the emotions. So I've been there. But when you think about emotional eating as being at a time when you aren't physically hungry, you know what the problem is. Most people just don't know what to do about it. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Now, I'll tell you, this evening, I am going to be liberally referencing books written by Dr. Anderson. Most of you know Dr. Anderson is the co-founder and medical director of Take Shape for Life. And he has been my mentor on this journey to health, teaching me so much about healthy habits. And you can see, those of you that are looking at the screen here, now you're listening to the recording later, you'll just have to hum along and see if you can figure out what we're talking about. But you can see on the screen, we have pictured the Stop Challenge Choose ebook. That's what we start all of our new clients with. In the center is really the foundation of our program, Dr. A's Habits of Health, and the companion guide, Living a Longer and Healthier Life. Those of you who are clients are already very well acquainted with these books because it's the core of what we do. And if for some reason you haven't read them yet, now would be a really good time to start that. You're going to find that to be really helpful for you. And you'll find in the bottom right corner, Dr. A's New York Times bestseller, Discover Your Optimal Health. And so all of the things that I'll be sharing with you this evening, if it seems to you that I am just particularly smart, it's because I'm sharing with you all the wonderful things that Dr. A has taught me over the years. So we talk about emotional eating being a habit, okay? And actually, let me back this up just a little bit. Emotional eating really is a habit, and I think most of you are aware of that. It's created by repeating the same behaviors. So I learned back when I was a child that when you celebrate, you do it with food. Because remember those school concerts? I'd go to the school concerts and we always celebrated afterwards with food. So I learned when you want to celebrate, you have something rich or something, you know, really indulgent in food. But the thing that's encouraging for you to think about is, okay, if emotional eating is a habit, well, we learn habits, don't we? Okay. But that also means you could learn a healthy habit too, couldn't you? Okay, habits are learned experiences. For instance, when you were a child, you were not born brushing your teeth every night when you went to bed, right? That was a habit your mother taught you. Every single night you were going to brush your teeth before you went to bed, right? And now it's a habit you don't even think twice about. Emotional eating for some of us has become a habit like that. But you can create a healthy habit and break that cycle, and that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Oh, and just as a quick aside on the books that are shown here, the Stop Challenge Choose ebook is what I'm going to be using actually the most this evening. Well, actually, I'm referencing all three of them. But if you have not had the opportunity to read that yet, if you are not yet a Take Shape for Life client, if you're a client, you've already read it. It's the very first thing we start with. But if you've not yet read that, talk to whoever invited you onto this call, because I'm pretty sure that they can get a complimentary copy of that ebook for you. And just let them know, tell them you were on the Habits of Health call and Shirley said that you could get a complimentary copy of the Stop Challenge Choose ebook. And could I have that, please? That's what you say to them, and I'm sure they'll be happy to take care of that for you. Okay, so that brings me to this Stop Challenge Choose thing. I mentioned that already. That's the title of his book. And let's talk a little bit about what's involved with that. This is kind of the key when we're teaching people to create healthier habits. We'll say, great, let's use this Stop Challenge Choose technique. So this is what it means. When you're in the heat of the moment, let's say the boss yells at you, you're ready to go grab candy, okay? You stop and you refocus in that moment instead of reacting. So you stop. Boss yells at you, you stop. What am I feeling, all right? You challenge. Instead of defaulting to the old habit, just grabbing that candy off of the coworker's desk, ask, why am I feeling this way? In the case of the boss yelling at you, it might be, well, I'm feeling really inadequate because he yelled at me for something that wasn't my fault. Or I'm feeling really devalued because really nobody should get yelled at like that. Or whatever it is. And then the follow-up question, will my default response, will my knee-jerk response, grabbing that candy, will it serve my best interest? Will it make me feel more valued? Shake your heads no, it won't make you feel more valued. Will it make the boss value me more? No. And perhaps most importantly, is it going to meet my health goals? No, if you're working on getting healthier, or if you're working on losing weight, grabbing that candy is not going to help at all, right? So that's the challenge phase of this. Then the next thing you do is choose, and you choose the response that supports the more important desire that you have, which is long-term health. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so for instance, we're in this situation where the boss yells at you, okay, and your default is to grab that candy bar. Those of you that are able to see the screen, you know that we're showing this habits of disease loop. So the boss yells at you, takes you around the loop to eating a candy bar. And then for a brief moment, the emotion is soothed. You feel just a little bit better for like about, I don't know, a minute and a half or so, all right? So that the next time the boss yells at you, you are more likely to eat that candy bar, feel better for just a moment or so, and you've kind of develop this habit loop, right? Now, here's one thing though I would challenge you on. For those of you that are used to grabbing food when you're really frustrated or upset, I'd challenge you to think through whether the food actually makes you feel better. I know that for me, in a situation like that where I'm frustrated, the candy bar, the first bite, that feels pretty good. The second bite, yeah, maybe. And the rest of the candy bar tastes an awful lot like regret, doesn't it? So really, ultimately, that candy bar didn't really make you feel any better anyhow, right? But in the heat of the moment, we tend to not think about that. At least I didn't. Okay, so let's think about what could be another way you could respond, because there is another way, okay? You don't have to default to that habits of disease loop. We're going to teach you how to create a habits of health loop. Okay, so let's say we're in the situation where the boss yells at you, okay? Well, for one thing, you may want to consider another job. Maybe you should be a health coach, because as a health coach, I'm my own boss and I don't ever yell at me. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, so let's say the boss yells at you, all right? You can stop, take a deep breath, and think for a moment. Or here's another tip. Learn this one from Dr. A too. He said, if you're in a frustrating situation, take a tall drink of water Okay, like this, okay? Boss yells at you. You really want to yell back and grab the candy, okay? You know you can't yell back at the boss, and you really don't want to grab the candy. So you take a long drink of water, okay? Because you know what? Nobody expects you to be doing anything else when you're drinking that water, and nobody expects you to be responding, right? Because they know you got to swallow, okay? If it's a really frustrating situation, take a second long drink of water, okay? It lets you think, doesn't it? Okay? Alternatively, if you don't have that glass of water nearby or a water bottle nearby, and you should, that's a habit of health, okay? But if you don't have that nearby, take a deep breath, okay? Do it with me, okay? Nobody's watching, okay? You can all do this with me. You won't feel silly, okay? Deep breath, and it's slow, okay? Deep breath in. Did you feel how much you just relaxed? Just with that one breath. And that will help you to think. So the boss yells at you, stop, deep breath, tall glass of water, whichever one is most appropriate for you. Challenge, what am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? Is food going to help this? I'll give you a hint. The answer to that is no. Then choose, okay, how can I best respond to this? Now, instead of grabbing the candy, maybe you go take a short walk. Maybe you talk to somebody you trust, okay? So let's see how this looks when you create a habits of health loop. The boss yells at you. You stop, challenge how you're feeling, take a deep breath in and out, relax a bit. And just the fact that you're doing a little bit of deep breathing will help to soothe that emotion. You could feel that right now, even just as you did it right now, that you just kind of relax a little bit. The body relaxes when you take a deep breath. Does deep breathing help you move forward on your health goals? Well, of course it does. And it does not interfere with your health goals the way that candy bar did, right? Do you see how that works? Or maybe you find that instead of the deep breathing, maybe you can find a coworker you can talk to, someone you can talk and vent a little bit. Maybe you can go take a short walk if the boss will let you go out and take a lap around the building, something to kind of clear your head. All of those things can be really beneficial in soothing the emotion, but it still will help you reach the goals that you want. And if we have time at the end, if I'm not too long-winded, I would love to hear from some of you about ways that you're using Stop, Challenge, Choose to create new habit loops for you. But I'll tell you what will happen. The more often you do this, where you have a negative emotion, you maybe do deep breathing or take a walk, you're going to create a new habit loop. And over time, what will happen is that your body's going to tend to, in a stressful situation, want to take a deep breath, not want to go for candy. How cool is that? Now, for those of you that are brand new at this, I know what you're thinking. I do, because I would have been there too. I would have said, there is no way that could work. Except I'll tell you, I am living proof that it does work, because that is what it's been for me. I did a lot of emotional eating, and over time, this new habit of health loop has really replaced the old habit of disease loop. So the encouraging word I have for you is, if it worked for me, it can work for you, because we're not that different. I'm not that special. I've just been practicing it maybe a little bit longer than you have. Okay? And I will say this too. That desire to soothe the negative emotion isn't a bad thing. You just want to make a choice that's going to help you to meet the goals that matter to you. Okay, so here's another thing that's an example that I took from Dr. A's book. And it uses that Stop, Challenge, Choose concept with cues and rewards and so on to help you think through how to do this. So for instance, Dr. A talks about this and also creating new habit loops. And he talks about how we will have different cues that will trigger different behaviors, but that you can retrain them. So for instance, he used as an example, it's the end of the day. Okay, you've had a long day at work, you've just finished dinner, and you'd really like to relax after dinner with your spouse. Okay, your habit has been, the routine has been that after dinner, you retire to the living room and you and your spouse enjoy a glass of wine. And the benefit of that, the reward of that, is that you get some intimacy, you get some time with your spouse, you get some time to sit and chat, you get to relax. And it's a beneficial reward. The only problem is, if you're in the weight loss phase of our program, that glass of wine isn't consistent with your health goals, is it? Okay, but you still want that same reward. You still want the intimacy with your spouse. You want the time to sit and relax and unwind, okay? But you know, on our 5-in-1 plan, we don't recommend that you use alcohol at all because it can interfere with your weight loss, okay? So let's see how this might work to replace a new routine. Okay, so your cue remains the same. It's after dinner. You'd like to be able to relax with your spouse. Okay, instead of that high-calorie drink, think a little bit. Think about something else that you might be able to do instead. What would happen if you would replace that drink with going for a walk with your spouse? Okay, again, you get time together where it's just the two of you. A walk can be very relaxing. And so you still get that same reward, time with your spouse, and an opportunity to unwind, but you still are reaching the goals that you want. Isn't that something? How simple that is? Now, if you're new at this, you might find that that's a little bit hard for you to figure out what a new routine would be. Okay? So what you may want to do is talk it over with your health coach. I'll tell you that often when a client will come to me and say, okay, here's what I've been doing. I'd like to create something healthier instead. Could you give me an idea? Sure, I can help them come up with all sorts of great ideas. Okay? On the other hand, though, if someone comes to me and says, I just can't break that habit, well, I'm not quite sure what I can do if they've already decided they can't break the habit. But if you've got a habit that you'd like to break and you just aren't sure how to do that or how to replace it with a healthier routine, talk to your health coach about that. They'd be happy to help you. And actually what's really cool is because we use team coaching with Take Shape for Life, you not only have your immediate coach who's supporting you, but your coach has a team of coaches supporting them and also supporting you. So if there's ever a time you ask your coach a question, they don't know how to help you, they've got a whole fantastic team of coaches that they can bring into the conversation and help you find a solution that's going to work for you. That's what's really cool about the way we get to work together as coaches. Okay, so we're working on creating new healthy habits, new routines, so that you stop, challenge, choose, instead of just reacting. And this way you get to respond. Okay, so you've got all sorts of tools in your toolkit. Some of them you didn't even know were there. So let's go through what some of those are, because if you know what the tools are in your toolkit to help to deal with emotional eating, you can be really successful in breaking that cycle, okay? So if you need to, grab a piece of paper, write these down, okay? So first of all, one of the really important tools in your toolkit is be sure to eat every 2 to 3 hours. 6 small meals a day. Now, this does not matter whether you're in, whatever phase of our program you're in. If you're in the weight loss portion, you're going to be eating 6 small meals a day. If you're looking at long-term health and just eating healthy, 6 small meals a day. The thing that's cool when you start thinking about emotional eating is that if you're well-fed, you're much less likely to be eating out of genuine hunger, grabbing things that you didn't really want to choose to eat. Okay, so eating every 2 to 3 hours, that's a big key, all right? We talked about this already. Ask your coach for help. If you're getting stuck, best thing you can do is call your coach and say, hey, help. I need some help with this. I'm not responding to this the way I'd like to. What can I do to make this better? Here's a great tip for you. If you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, those 4 things are caution. That should be putting off little caution lights in your head, okay? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you look at the first letter of each of those words, it spells HALT, H-A-L-T. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you are much more likely to make choices that aren't maybe your best choices. And if you've got 2 of those going on at the same time, like if you are hungry and lonely, ooh, wow, your chances of making bad choices just went way up. If you're angry and tired, ooh, boy, danger zone, okay? So just be cautious, be extra cautious. If you're hungry and it's time for you to eat something healthy, get a good nutritious fueling. If you're angry, go find a friend and talk it through. If you're lonely, a friend's good for that too. And if you're tired, good gracious, just go to bed. And yes, I'm preaching to myself here. That's a weakness for me. But those can be times that you want to just be extra careful. Journal before and after an event. That could be huge in helping you. okay? If you are coming into a challenging situation, let's say you've got a family dinner coming up this weekend and you know it's going to be emotionally charged. We all have them. We all have situations like that. You know this weekend's going to be challenging, all right? If that's the case, then plan ahead a little bit. Do some journaling ahead of time. I know I'm coming into a family dinner this weekend. It's going to be tough. Here's what my plan is. Here's why I'm going to make healthy choices, because when I come home, I don't want to be frustrated by the food choices that I made, okay? Let's say you've gone through an event and maybe it didn't go as well as you wanted to. That's another great time to journal again. You can if you had a situation where you did not respond as well as you would have liked to, use it as an opportunity to learn. I'll tell you, those of us that are really, really good at this, it's because we've messed up a lot, but we've learned from them. Okay, and you can do that too. So if you go through a situation, didn't handle it as well as you'd like to, grab a journal entry, write down what happened. Write down what you'd like to do differently the next time. Because if you use that as an opportunity to learn, you'll keep getting stronger, and that's what you want, right? Plan your healthy rewards too. You know how I said if you've got a stressful situation, it's nice to know something you can do that will soothe the emotion. Taking a quick walk, that's a great one. Taking some time to talk to a friend, another great one. Maybe you want to spend a little extra time with your spouse. Great healthy reward. If I've had a really tough week, you know, I am all about going out and buying a little inexpensive bling, because I think a girl can never have too much jewelry. It's a great little reward, right? Doesn't cost a lot of money, nice reward, and it doesn't interfere with my health goals. But if you write that list of rewards, it'll make it much easier for you in the heat of the moment where you're saying, wow, I'm feeling really stressed. What would be a reward I could use right now? And there's lots of them. I mean, it's really just up to your imagination to think of some great ones. Ask your health coach. They may be able to help you with that as well. And practice. Keep practicing. Don't expect to be perfect at this tomorrow. Actually, don't ever expect to be perfect. We're not going for perfection. We're going for excellence. So just keep working on getting better. And as you keep practicing it and practicing it, you will get better over time. To close this out, I have one quote for you, and this one comes from Dr. Anderson, and it comes out of the third book of his that I mentioned, the Discover Your Optimal Health, a New York Times bestseller. And I'm going to read it directly from the book, simply because Dr. A says it better than I possibly could. And he says this about emotional eating. He says, your mind is your greatest asset. In order to succeed at anything in life, you've got to be all in. The old way of thinking is gone. In the past, you let your circumstances dictate your emotions, your eating habits, and your responses to your surroundings. But now everything is different. You are the dominant force in your life. The way you think and choose will dictate your health path. You can respond with conscious choice to life's challenges rather than overreacting with negative thoughts that can derail your health and your life. Instead of reacting with emotional eating, you could stop, hit pause, and think about the next step. Be kind to yourself. Stop judging. Be mindful. Your brain works for you, not the other way around. Is it any wonder I think this is a pretty great book? Discover Your Optimal Health by Dr. Wayne Scott Anderson. Check it out. I think you'll find that to be really helpful. We have just a couple moments here left. I would encourage, let's do this. Maybe we'll have just a little bit of time for, let's go for, if anybody has questions on this topic, we'll open it up for that. And I think what we'll have you do is, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'll see that you're unmuted. And then you can either share something that you found to be successful, or if you have a question, you can do that. But before we close up, I want to be sure to remind you, share what you've learned this evening on this Habits of Health call with your coach. You might also share it as a post on Facebook. That's a great way to encourage your friends. But definitely let your coach know what you've learned, because I think as you share that, it reinforces your own learning. And this call will be available on a recording and a podcast very shortly. Share that with your friends that struggle with this. I think what I'm going to do is take it off a screen share and see if there's any questions here. I do want to wind this down here very shortly, simply because I want to make sure that we have time for you all to get over onto the doctor's call. Let me just look here real quick and see if anybody's unmuted. Does anybody have a question or maybe something that they have learned that they've been practicing that has made this whole Stop Challenge Choose thing very real and very useful to you? Oh my goodness, Cliff, it is a really big room. It's really hard for me to see if anybody, if you're unmuted and you've got a question, go ahead and speak. We've got a full house tonight. This is pretty awesome. Anybody have a question or a comment? Oh, and my apologies to those of you that are on the phone. If you're on the phone, you are in listen-only mode. But for those of you that are here actually on Zoom, anybody have a question or a comment before we close this down?
I classified myself as an emotional eater for a long time, and 2.5 years in, I'm finding myself to not be doing it, but I didn't replace it with anything. And sometimes I will find myself just sitting in a state of discomfort.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, because
I'm out of the habit of eating.
You don't have anything to fix it with.
I'm just out of the habit of eating if it's not for fuel. So I am now on a quest of finding the thing to give me comfort.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you, like when I went through, I remember going through, and you know what? I can't see your name on here. For some reason.
Andrea.
Okay. Hi, Andrea. How are you? Yeah, I think I found the same thing. I went through a season where I was really frustrated because I knew I wasn't going to use food to feed the emotions anymore. And I had to figure out how I was going to do that. Okay. And it'll be different for everybody. Actually, if we polled this whole room, everybody would probably have different things that they do that's kind of a soothing thing. Now, like you guys, don't even listen to this because this isn't going to help you at all. But I'm a big fan of homemade manicures. So it's like if I'm stressed out, it's like, oh, yes, I will update. Now, this is a professional one, but, you know, I will update the manicure because you know what? It's very hard to eat when you're painting your nails and have it not get messy. Okay. So that one works for me. Or, you know, if you got somebody who loves you that'll give you a foot rub. Cliff, are you listening to this? You know, so experiment. And actually, that'd be a fun thing for you to, like, for those of you that are in client groups, you know, that'd be a fun thing to poll your group on Facebook and say, hey, what do you guys do as a stress buster that's not food? But
self-soothing is not a bad thing if it's not food.
Exactly, because food was designed as fuel. It was not designed to soothe because it just doesn't really work very well that way. It's soothing a little bit. And then, boy, the next day it doesn't feel good and so on. But I love what you said, Andrea, about that you've just decided that food is fuel. And it really does, for some of us, it just comes down to that decision that, oh, well, I'm not hungry, so the answer must not be food. Yeah. Anybody else? I don't want us to run too long. Yes, Rachel, go ahead.
Hi. So I first want to say that I'm always so inspired by you. I started in January 2012. Stop it, Alex. I'm sorry, my puppy is barking. Go out. Okay, and you know, you're so inspiring to me after 4 years, and I've seen you. I won't out you, but I've seen you have joy. I've seen you have pain. I've seen you gain a few pounds, and I've seen you take it right off. And what I find the most amazing about you is how relatable you are, how approachable you are, and how real you are. And I think you're one of the main people that made me believe.
I'm just finishing up on the call here.
No worries. Go ahead, Rachel.
All good.
I'm hearing overlap from somebody else.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's not me. But I just want to say that I had a really bad binging disorder myself. And 4 years later, I can say that I stopped challenging Choose. You're one of the people I followed very closely. And what I could say to people on this call especially is that one of the things that helped me is helping other people. And you don't have to get paid to do it and be a health coach. But when helping other people became as important, if not more than me being healthy myself, it really became bigger than myself. And so anytime I think about going back to the old self, I also think about how far I've come and how many people I've brought along with me. And it just makes it so much more important. So I just want to say, Shirley, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so awed by you that I told all my clients to come on because 215 pounds and to keep it off all this time. I know you have Dr. Anderson as your health coach, but that's pretty awesome. So.
Well, you know what? The thing is, regardless of who the health coach is, the steps are still the same. The steps are still, and thank you for your kind words. That's very sweet. But I think you're exactly right about your whole point about when you start helping other people, what happens is you help yourself in the process. You know, I mean, that one of the huge benefits for me about health coaching is every time I'm pouring into my clients, I'm also pouring into me because I'm sharing with my clients what I need to hear. Does that make sense? Hey, let's do one more, and my apologies to whoever it is on the doctor's call that I'm overlapping. Lori, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to share something?
Oh, yes. Hi, Shirley. I just wanted to say thank you again for your share. I'm so excited to be on this Habits of Health, and the topic was perfect. Emotionally eating is one of my favorites that I'm mastering new habits. And actually what I do what I try to do is I remove myself from the situation. I either walk my dog or I get up and I just go walk outside instead of walking into the kitchen, into the refrigerator, grabbing my ice cream, which is usually my vice. I just found that to be much better. And walking the dog is a very stop, challenge, and shoot. You just breathe and you're walking and you're just looking around, and it's just so great. My journey started 3 years ago when I was able to lose 48 pounds and keep it off. But again, the more you practice these habits, it gets easier because it took me 52 years to get these habits. So they just didn't turn off. So
that's a good point. You don't lose a 52-year habit in 3 weeks.
No, not at all.
You know? And so if it takes you a little while to get figured out, well, that's okay. Oh, and I gotta tell you on the whole emotional eating thing, here's another thing. We just do not have junk in the house. You know, so it's not that I don't get stressed. Those of you that know me well know that there are times I am stressed, okay? But it's really, really hard to overindulge when what you've got in the house is vegetables, seltzer water, meal replacements. What else do we have, Cliff? And raw meat for dinner, you know? Lori, thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful.
Thank you, Shirley.
And my apologies for this running long. I got to tell you, this is a favorite topic of mine because it really is one that I think so many people find to be a challenge for them. But here you go. It's 8:38. We're already running a little bit late. The doctor's call is currently in process. I have the numbers right up on the screen now. So if you want to get on that doctor's call right now, it is 712-832-8330 and enter PIN 436-6777. The Habits of Health call will be at this very same link every single Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So be sure to come back next week. We'll have a new host and a new topic, and we hope you all will come back. Thanks so much for coming tonight. It was great to have you guys here. Go make it a healthy week.